we have just about concluded one full working week of me not using my iPhone and only using the good old Apple Watch and my laptop. And let me tell you, it's been really incredible. And to commemorate the 1 week mark, I went into my screen time, and you can access screen time on your Mac. I was able to see data from the last month. So this goes back to March 5th. And because I wanted a real unvarnished look and analysis of my screen time, I didn't rely on Apple's tools alone. Instead, what I did is I took a video of all of the data from the last month of my screen time, and then I dropped that into Claude Code. And then I got Claude Code to really analyze my screen time in a very rigorous way where it doesn't really sugarcoat anything. And we're gonna go through this together. So here's what we got. The top line stats are that from March 5th to April 3rd, I had 226 hours of screen time. The average screen time was 9 hours and 3 minutes. Peak was 11 hours and 33 minutes. Waking hours, which is crazy, 57% of my waking hours, I was on screen. So right off the bat, not feeling great about this. I'm feeling great about not using it anymore, but holy shit, this is a lot. And now, take it with a grain of salt. Like, no one uses their phone and that's all they're doing. Half the time you're scrolling, you're doing other things, and it's not like this is the only thing you're doing. Multitasking is a big part of this, but still, it's just like these numbers are unavoidable. This is a lot of screen time. And let's go through section by section here. So usage over time, as you can see, it has fallen off a cliff the last few days. It is at 0 from March 30th to April 3rd, 0. But before that, the average was about 9 hours and 3 minutes. Weekends were definitely a little bit less. During the weekday, I would be all over it. A lot of screen time. And yeah, so the cliff, it went from 8 hours and 27 minutes to 0. It's just remarkable. Then, so I asked it to break down what I have reclaimed. And again, take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, but it is saying that in 1 week, I have saved 63 hours, which is just unfathomable, where that is a day and a half. That's more than a day and a half. That's almost 3 days. And then in a month, 272 hours, that's 11 days. 6 months, 69 full 24-hour days. Like, these numbers are unfathomable. Are you seeing this? 69 fucking days back. That is crazy. And in a year, 137 days. Now again, I know this is not like apples to apples, and I'm definitely using my Mac a little bit more than I would have otherwise, and it's not perfect. And obviously the digital world is a very real world and a valid world, and it's not something to be like, oh my God, like you're spending that all of this time is terrible. No, that is not true. But when you put it in these kind of terms, this is a lot. And I can get 11 full days back a month. That is crazy. It's just crazy. And let's just even cut that in half. Let's just say it's 5.5 days a month. That is incredible. So here's some of the thing where it says what you can do with the reclaimed time. I could read 12 books in a freaking week, apparently. That is wild. I don't know if that is totally true, but like with 63 hours, you definitely could read 12 books. And let's say in a year, I could change a career. I want to change my career. My career is great. I would like my company to be more successful. So that is good. You could plan and take a 3-month backtracking trip around the world. This is just absolutely insane. These are the things I could do if I reclaimed every single one of those hours that I am looking down at my phone. It's friggin' nuts. Friggin' nuts. 1 year saves 137 days. That's over 1/3 of the entire year given back to you. A completely different life. And that's the thing. Obviously, Apple's not going to put screen time in this sort of context for you, because if you do put it in this kind of context, you're getting what I get right now. This is absolutely mind-boggling. It makes me feel that much better about the decisions I've been making to just use the Apple Watch Ultra in my laptop, because holy shit, this is so much time. And when Claude has put it in this sort of context for me, I'm just like, this is not the life. Spending all this time on my phone was just not right. Okay, now we get to a fun section, or an interesting section. Here is my most used apps, and I'll go through the top one sort of and give a little explanation of what's going on. So first of all, Peacock, that is number one. And Peacock was my number one used app because I would fall asleep listening to The Office, and The Office is on Peacock. And that's why that one is so high. Then number two, this is like the most shameful of all of them in my opinion. This is X or Twitter. And we're looking at 27 hours of Twitter time. And that is crazy. Absolutely friggin' crazy. Yeah, so Claude did a deep dive on the X Twitter problem. So total time, 27 days, worst day, March 25th. I did 3 hours on Twitter. On average, I did an hour and 5 minutes a day on Twitter. The breakdown of how much time I spent. So 30, no Twitter that day. I feel like that might have just been some data miscalculation. 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours. It is just absolutely crazy. And this is just in 25 days. In 25 days, I spent 25 hours, more than a full day on Twitter. Holy smokes. Yeah, so that's Twitter. In 25 days, I spent 27 hours on X. Brutal. Then we have, this was another one with a grain of salt. We'll talk about it. Polytopia. That's a game. And I spent 26 hours playing Polytopia. But I get another grain of salt with this one is what I would do when I was playing Polytopia is I would almost always be listening to a podcast or listening to a book. And you might say that is brain rot culture, but I would like to say I've been doing this for 15 years. It hasn't always been Polytopia, but for me, I have always loved listening to books and listening to audio or listening to podcasts. And what I have done is play sort of a mindless video game while listening. That's always been my thing. I started doing this that summer is the first summer I started really listening to books. And listening to books, unlike reading a book, if you read a book, you sit down and you read a book, but you can't really just sit down and listen to an audiobook. So you have to be doing something. Most regular people, I think, they go for a walk or they're driving or they're cleaning their house, something like that, while they're listening to an audiobook. But for me, I would play a mindless video game, whether it's some racing game or some iPad game that I've had where it's just like a dumbed down version of Monopoly. I've also, of late, I've been playing Polytopia. So that's always been my thing of how I listen to audiobooks. Those 26 hours, those were almost all hours where I've been listening to an audiobook or reading a book. Then moving down the list, we have messages, which honestly, this is higher than I thought. I guess maybe sometimes I just leave it open, the messaging app, where I've got 16 hours of messaging, which I don't know, it just does not feel like I spend 16 hours messaging, but definitely is like my most used communication channel, is Gmail, where I would have never thought in like email is a problem or Gmail is something that is contributing to my digital addiction, but very similar to Twitter, where with X and Gmail, those two applications are very easy for me to justify, but the reality is it is not actually helping me do what I need to do or helping me focus what I need to focus on. Where with X and Gmail, I'm able to lie to myself and say, this is a work-related task and allows me to get derailed from the thing I actually need to be focusing on. 27 hours time on X and 11, it's 11 hours, is what it is? Yeah, 11 hours on Gmail. So Gmail, I spent more time on Gmail than I did on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, LinkedIn, Slack, all this kind of stuff. And For whatever reason, because you always get emails, and emails are just coming in. And if I were to go check my email right now, I'm gonna do this, and I won't show you all my email. It's just not important stuff half the time. Okay, so I've got a bill from a thing, I've got this other marketing, some newsletter. Like, these emails are not important to my day-to-day work. But they keep coming in, and when they come in, you check them, and it derails what you need to be focusing on. So that is one of the more interesting things from this finding, where obviously on my Apple Watch, I could connect Gmail, but I just have not, because at the end of the day, I'm not gonna respond to emails on my watch. So if I'm not gonna respond to them, why even bother having them come through? Because clearly when they come through, it is a thing that is going to distract me. And I have not missed anything important. I still have it on my laptop, and I just go in and check them when I need to check them. It's been way better. Gmail has honestly been the most surprising thing out of all of this. I knew I spent too much time on Twitter. I knew my screen time was a lot in a lot of ways. Gmail was the most surprising one, where I was just like, I didn't realize I was getting derailed like that. Okay, let's keep going. So we have this other stat where we got 41 hours social media scrolling. This is X, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Reddit. And then 41 hours of passive consumption. Again, this is mostly when I am sleeping, watching The Office, but still pretty gnarly stuff. Twitter problem, we talked about that. Where 226 hours went. Okay, let's break this one down. So of the 226 hours, 65 hours were on social. We have 23%, 53 hours on entertainment, so that's streaming, 27 hours on gaming, that's Polytopia, and then productivity, 17 hours, information and reading, we have 12 hours, and others is 23. Okay. So days of the week, where the weekdays are obviously bigger, and so here we go. The weekday average was 9 hours and 34 minutes, and weekend average was 8 hours and 2 minutes. So I don't really know what that says, but I think the thing is when I'm working, I am more often looking for a distraction, which I don't know what that says, but very interesting insight. Speaking of insight, the next section that Claude has whipped up for me is key insights. And on this key insight section, what do we got? Peak day was 11 hours and 33 minutes, pitiful, it's brutal. Lightest day was 5 hours and 28 minutes, which again, not totally great. Apps tracked, so it looks like I had 27 apps for the most part that were tracked, so 27 apps. Detox streak, 5 days, baby, let's go, killing it, absolutely killing it. Okay, here's another interesting one. What could have you done instead? 2 hours and 226 hours is a lot of time. Here's what it equals. 45 friggin' books, 113 movies, 56 marathons. I will not be running 56 marathons, even if I get all 226 of these hours back. You could do 18 round trip flights from LA to New York. Kill me. I hate that flight. I friggin' hate it. But I could do it with all this extra time. But if I were doing that, almost all that time would involve screen time. I don't know. Like, you could have built one app. So this, Claude, you're a little outdated here. You definitely could have built far more than one app in 2 hours and 26 minutes. I don't know how you're defining app, but we built this whole tool breaking down my screen time addiction while I was drinking my smoothie this morning. So it took me about 25 minutes. So maybe update how you're thinking about how long it takes to build an app. You have created this monster. Okay, if you quit just one app, this is a good one. If I just quit Twitter, I could read 5 books because there's 27 hours I was doing on Twitter, 13 movies, 6 half marathons at a casual 2:15 pace, 54 meditation sessions. Meditation is probably greater than scrolling on X, almost certainly. So that is my screen time breakdown. It certainly is a little eye-opening. Yeah, it was just absolutely crazy to see all of this stuff broken out like this. And it's just very obvious. And something I would recommend for anyone to do is do what I just did. Use Claude Code, use ChatGPT. I'm sure they could all do something very similar to what I did here, but just take a screenshot of all of your screen time, or as much data or as far back as you want to go, and dump it all in there. And then once you dump that data into one of these tools, they will give you a much more unbiased point of view on your screen time. Because Apple, or Android even, they're not going to be like, oh my God, you spent so much time on this device that you make money for us on that you could have read 45 books, or you could have watched 113 movies, or ran 56 marathons, or 54 meditation sessions. They're not going to do that. Obviously, they're not going to do that. And I don't blame them for not doing that. I get it. But if you care about yourself and your life and your mental well-being and your health, then this is a good exercise to do. Just check it out. It's very easy to do. Like I said, I made this whole tool while I was drinking a smoothie and making a smoothie and drinking coffee. It took 25 minutes. The first draft took 5 minutes, and the last 20 minutes were me just refining and going back and forth. I'm like, oh, good enough, let's do this thing. So, really cool. And I think everyone deserves it, where you should just go in there, check some of this stuff out, unbiased point of view of how you're using screen time. Because this is pretty crazy stuff. And all of it has been made possible because I have switched to the Apple Watch. And just using the Apple Watch, it is not a complete solution. And this is becoming very clear to me. There are still many areas where you cannot run your whole life or you can run your whole life wearing an Apple Watch, but there are a lot of trade-offs. There are a lot of what I would consider unnecessary frustrations. And that is something that I think that should be fixed. Because another thing that is becoming very clear to me is right now, we live in a world where you have smartphones and then you have dumb phones and feature phones. And that's it. Smartphones are iOS and Android. Dumb phones are literally all the dumb phones that are so dumb that no person in their right mind would be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use this and enjoy it. That is all we have. And communication is the killer app. That is how phones were created 100 years ago. Wouldn't it be great if you could call someone that's really far away? Great, we invented this technology that can do that. And that is their killer app. But the world has changed, and a dumb phone can do the calling and can do the texting, but the assumption that everybody has a smartphone has kind of permeated culture, where the other day I was trying to get an appointment at the DMV, and you need two-factor authentication. It's just like, what the hell? And then, so luckily, actually, the DMV, there are some websites that will, do you want me to text you a code, or call you and give you a code? And because of the quirks with the Apple Watch, the texting a code does not work, but calling does work. So that has been really helpful. The DMV allowed that feature, but there are some things where it's just like, they'll only text you a code. And if you're texting me a code, I cannot access it with my current setup. And there are other things where you just want the ability you just don't want trade-offs. With a smartphone, you have all the downsides that come with social media, and you've got like a casino in your pocket, you've got TikTok, you've got Instagram, you just got crack in your pocket. And you also have all of your essentials that actually help make you live your life. And there's just no way to disentangle those two things. And that is what I think the most interesting opportunity is, if you can create a device that has as much of the good, none of the bad, and then, yeah, like I just think it would be such an incredible device. And the way I'm thinking of it is there deserves to be a third kind of device in the world, where you have smartphones, you've got feature phones, but then you should also have health phones or healthy phones. Probably health phones is what you'd call them, because they would not just all be about your physical health, they'd be about your mental health. And are you actually trying to live your best life? And we know that smartphones do not contribute to people living their best life. They take away from your ability to do. It distracts you. It has everything you could possibly need at your fingertips. And look, I really do think food is the best analogy here, because McDonald's and pizza and all kinds of fast food, it tastes great. There's a reason it exists. But then we wake up a little bit and we realize this is not serving my best long-term interest. If I was able to eat McDonald's every single day for free, you'd probably do that. But it turns out, if you want to live a long, healthy life, if you want to wake up feeling good, taking advantage of the ability to eat a free McDonald's meal every single day is probably not the best decision. And that is what our smartphones have become, where every single day for free, we can just fire up TikTok, fire up Instagram, go on Twitter, scroll, and no one cares. It's there, it's free, they're never gonna tell you to stop. It's just there for the taking. And I think society is starting to wake up a little bit, and they're going to be like, hold on, this is actually detrimental to my life. This is not serving my long-term interest, and I want there to be another way. And I think lots of people want there to be another way. However, there is not another way. The only options you have right now are using a smartphone, iOS or Android, or using a dumb phone. Or you can do what I'm doing right now and just use an Apple Watch and a laptop. Both the Apple Watch and laptop approach and dumb phone approach, you are still sacrificing a lot. What you're trying to do is you're trying to live a healthy life. You're trying to serve your best long-term interest. That is what I'm trying to achieve by breaking out of the smartphone economy. But it doesn't mean it should come with all these other trade-offs where I can't get my two-factor authentication codes, or if I need to go look something up on Google, or if I want to use ChatGPT or Claude, I can't do that. That is ridiculous. These are things that serve me. I use Claude every single day to help me with my work. This is a positive for me. I want this. I cannot use that stuff on my Apple Watch. So that is the gap that I'm seeing in the world. That is the gap I'm trying to build a company to fill, is to create this third choice where you don't have to sacrifice. You don't have to have a shitty dumb phone, or you don't have to be struggling to use an Apple Watch or whatever just so you can break out of the smartphone economy. There should be a world-class phone that looks good, it's fast, it has all the AI stuff you could possibly need to do your job. It has all of the other applications that are essential to you living your life. It should be able to have that. But at the same time, it should have your best long-term interest in mind. And I think we can create something like that. I think the world really wants something like that. And just me living this right now, it is giving me so much more conviction. I already had conviction that there's something here. There's something to this concept. But this past week, living without my iPhone, only using the Apple Watch and laptop, it has given me so much more conviction that this is the right path. And it's also made it very clear to me that what we're doing is we're creating a healthier option. And the reason it is so much clearer to me is because I feel healthier. I'm sleeping better. I'm more focused. I'm working out more. Like, it's just everything about it is I feel better. And I was just telling my fiance this morning, is I was like, I don't think I'm going back. I don't think I'm going back to an iPhone. There are frustrations, and I'm like, God, I've had moments where I'm just like, I wish I had my phone, or I wish I wasn't still doing this wasn't so hard. But at this point, I'm like, I gotta do it. I gotta do it. The benefits are so freaking clear, so freaking obvious. That is undeniable. There are frustrations, and I need to catalog those frustrations. I need to be aware of those frustrations, and we're going to fix those frustrations. Me and the team, we're gonna be like, okay, two-factor authentication codes, how do we make sure we always get that? For this long tail of like utility apps, whether it be like the transit app or an Apple, or like a remote control app, or logging into your grocery store, or DoorDash, or Uber, or all these things that are just utilities in your life. We need to find a way to make sure that we can provide those in these new options and in this new kind of healthy phone or health phone. And if we were to do that, would be incredible, because no product has that solution right now. That is the gap in the market. There are smartphones that are dumb phones. Where are the health phones? Where are the phones that have your best long-term interest in mind? That is what I want to uncover. That is what I want to create. And I just think it would be a massive benefit to society. And if nothing else, it'd be a massive benefit to me, because this is what I want right now. And this is very clearly something that I think is going to be incredible for myself. And if it's incredible for myself, I think it would be incredible for a lot more people. I'm going to, since I have my computer all set up here, I am going to play a clip. And the clip is, let's see, YouTube. The clip is, so what we're pulling up here is we are pulling up a clip from, now we're going to use good old AI.
So what, after all this time, okay, what can you tell us that you're working on? What can you think?
Reason I fell in love with Sam was, so I actually contacted Sam, which I've not done before, and I was very shy. The researchers at OpenAI are terrifying. It was to do with, no, I can't share it, can I? No.
Sam, what can you tell us about what you're building?
I'm like an easier person to crack, so I would try to. One of the things, like noise points, like just think, Tango and all this stuff, old devices that can offer you back some of that spirit.
Point. When do you think people do?
I think just to something that is lovingly and well considered, and I can't bear products that are like a dog. So I was struck on lots of levels, but one of them was just emotionally in my tummy. It just like the
Allows you to think in ways that you wouldn't think otherwise.
it
It is the freest, most creative accident that what drives all of this. And then there's the question of like, why did the cultural force happen here? Like, why is this the place? Clearly, the natural beauty of the city and the surroundings attracted people that felt certainly about the world. I grew up in a culture where that was very much read from east to west, and there was this thing that San Francisco was like the end of the extreme end of the frontier or something.
Okay, what I was trying to show was a video with Lorraine Powell Jobs, Steve Jobs' widow, and Johnny Ive, the head designer at Apple, or former head designer at Apple, and Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. And what they talk about in this video is basically, you can see the disgust that Johnny Ive and Lorraine Powell Jobs have for the current state of Apple. And I really think that is what I mean when I say Apple today. They would never put this type of stuff in Screen Time, where they show you the very tangible negative implications of spending 8.5 hours a day on an iPhone. They're just not going to do that because that is not in their commercial interest. However, I think if still Steve Jobs was around today, he would have a much different point of view on the matter, where he would say, this doesn't matter. It does not matter how this is going to affect our bottom line. It is clear we are not helping people, that we are not serving our customers in the best possible way. Even though they are deciding to scroll for 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, whatever it is, it doesn't mean that this is actually what is in their best interest. And I think that is antithetical to how Steve Jobs would have been doing things. And Tim Cook, I'm sure like he's just doing his job running the business, and it's been growing, it's been doing well, and power to him. And like, it's great. But I do not think that is how Steve Jobs would have been running the company. I think he would see it for what it is, where this is something that is having very clear negative side effects. And the part of the reason why I think this is because in these clips like this, where you see Lorraine Powell Jobs and Johnny Ive, two people that were obviously extremely close to Steve Jobs, where they're just like, Apple has lost their way. Apple has not, they are not doing the things that Steve would have done. And in large part, I think it has to do with the digital addiction, the screen time problem that the iPhone has created. If Steve was around today, I firmly believe he would be taking drastic action to change how Apple shows up in the world. So that's my take. We're a week in of the no phone challenge. It's been incredible. I think we're gonna keep doing this for a very long time. That's all we got.